Shall I start?
Yes, go ahead. Welcome, colleagues.
Hello, everyone. Good evening from India, but I know it's different time zones all across the world. So welcome to the 5th edition of ICH Tourism Dialogues, Conversations on Living Heritage and Tourism. The ICH NGO Forum Working Group on the Sustainable ICH Tourism, as you know, has launched this series of conversation to deepen our understanding on the complex relationship between intangible cultural heritage and tourism. So the idea is to explore not only the opportunities for economic development, but also the challenges of safeguarding living heritage while engaging with tourism. And our collective goal is to build a living knowledge resource, the web dossier, which will serve multiple users and advance our collective thinking on how tourism can support rather than threaten the vitality of cultural traditions and practices. I'm Ananya Bhattacharya. I'm the director of Contact Base. We are part of the ICH NGO Forum as an accredited NGO from India. And I'm also a member of the ICOMOS Scientific Committee on Cultural Tourism, ICTC, and I'm the vice president of ICTC. Today, our speaker is Dr. Ivan Henares. Ivan is the president of ICTC. He is a tourism educator, a cultural policy researcher, and advocate for heritage conservation in Philippines. He's the Secretary General of the UNESCO National Commission of Philippines. He's a commissioner of the National Commission for Culture and Arts. Ivan is also assistant professor at the Asian Institute of Tourism of the University of Philippines. Later, I'll put his brief resume in the chat. So today, Ivan will be speaking primarily on the ICOMOS International Charter for Cultural Heritage Tourism. This is a very aspirational charter which aims to reinforce cultural heritage protection and community resilience through responsible and sustainable tourism management. We adopted it in 2022. Today, I'd like to share that as ICTC, we are also coming out with an operational guiding document on how the charter can be implemented. But now I'll pass on the what should I say, the mic, right, to Ivan. So Ivan, request you to start with a description or brief to the audience here on the Cultural Heritage Tourism Charter, and also share on how you have influenced Philippines to adopt the charter principles. Yes, over to Ivan.
Thank you very much, Ananya, and hello to everyone. Thank you very much for having me today. And I am here to introduce the International Charter for Cultural Heritage Tourism that was updated in 2022. I will first share the charter, give an introduction about it, and some interesting points that we can get from the whole document. And I will be sharing after that some things that we've done in the Philippines, in particular with the implementation of the charter with regard to intangible cultural heritage and tourism. So the International Cultural Tourism Committee of ICOMOS was one of the first scientific committees of ICOMOS that was organized in 1969. So this year will be our 56th year. And it was during the second ICOMOS General Assembly in Oxford that the resolution creating the committee and this was adopted. The first charter, the 1976 charter, was adopted as a result of the International Seminar on Contemporary Tourism and Humanism in 1976. And this 1976 document can actually be considered the first international document that is focused, or that was focused on the need for a responsible tourist approach to cultural heritage. So in 1976, many, many years ago, at that time, it already anticipated the recognition of sites and monuments as a source of economic benefit, and cultural education. So the charter was later updated in 1999. So the second version of the charter, of course, as the tourism industry changed, and of course, as the environment of tourism what is a very dynamic one. The charter was updated again in 1999, and finally in 2002 we have our third version of the charter, and this is the charter that we currently have. It's the International Charter for Cultural Heritage Tourism, reinforcing cultural heritage protection and community resilience through responsible and sustainable tourism management, which was adopted in Bangkok in November 2022. So if you want to learn more about the charter, if you want to download a copy, and it is in several languages, we invite you to visit the ICOMOS ICTC website, or you can check this QR code, which would bring you straight to the charter. Okay, so why was the charter updated? Of course, because of profound growth and the disruption as well in global tourism. So there was a need to really look at the 99 charter and make it more relevant to the 21st century. So of course, as a result, in 2021 was when it was first proposed, and this is it complements and updates the previous one that was adopted in 1999. And of course, it recognizes intensified tourism, the use of cultural heritage places and destinations. And of course, the charter addresses the concerns about the degradation of cultural heritage, along with many other rights issues, social, ethical, cultural, environmental, and economics rights issues that, of course, are associated with tourism. And in this charter, you have to remember the definition that cultural heritage tourism refers to all tourism activities in heritage places and destinations, including the diversity and interdependence of their tangible, intangible, cultural, natural, past, and contemporary dimensions. So we talk about cultural heritage here as a common resource, and we understand that when we govern it, the governance, and when we enjoy it, these are shared rights and responsibilities. So the charter has three objectives. The first one being to place the protection of cultural heritage and community rights at the heart of cultural heritage tourism policy and projects, of course, by providing principles. There are 7 of them in this charter that will inform responsible tourism planning and management for cultural heritage protection, community resilience, and adaptation. The second objective is to promote stakeholder collaboration and participatory governance. So when we talk about participatory governance, not consultation, the community should always be part of the decision-making process in the stewardship of cultural heritage and the management of tourism. So it's we talk about people-based, people-centered, and right-based approaches. We emphasize access, education, and enjoyment. And of course, the third objective is to guide cultural heritage and tourism management in supporting the UN SDGs and climate action policy. So the question is, who is this charter for? And the responsible management of tourism is something that is shared between a lot of players. We're talking of government, the tour operators, the tourism businesses, destination managers, marketing organizations, site management authorities, land use planners, heritage and tourism professionals, and civil society and visitors. So it's relevant to all these stakeholders that we just enumerated. And of course, the charter is a document that provides guidance for heritage and tourism practitioners, professionals, and decision makers within international, national, local government agencies, organizations, institutions, and administrations. And of course, it is also a reference for educators, for academics, researchers, and students that are focused on tourism and cultural heritage. So this charter applies to the management of all cultural heritage properties and to the entire spectrum of their protection, conservation, interpretation, presentation, and dissemination activities. So obviously, these are all connected with and influenced by public use and visitation. So let's talk about the 7 principles briefly. But I do invite you to take a look at the charter if you have the opportunity so that you can see the full text of that charter. Of course, the first principle is to place cultural heritage protection and conservation at the Center of Responsible Cultural Tourism Planning and Management. So of course, when we talk about tourism, and if you're going to use cultural heritage as a part of tourism, its protection and management should be the priority, or it should be the center of policies and planning. So um, when we talk about well-managed cultural tourism, this would, of course, is something that would enable the community to participate while they're able to maintain their heritage, social cohesion, and cultural practices. So when we talk about tourism planning and cultural heritage management, it has to be coordinated across all levels of governance in order to identify, assess, and avoid the adverse impacts of tourism on the heritage fabric, integrity, and authenticity. And of course, that includes intangible cultural heritage and all these places that we talk about. And even the infrastructure projects or management plans, when we introduce these, they have to contribute to protecting or preserving the integrity, authenticity, aesthetic, social, cultural dimensions of the heritage places where we are trying to introduce these tourism plans or programs or projects. And it includes their settings, the natural and cultural landscape, host communities, biodiversity characteristics, and the broader visual context. Of course, revenues are a very important discussion that we introduce in the picture. So revenues that we generate through cultural heritage tourism, of course, must contribute to the conservation of cultural heritage, be it tangible or intangible, and provide benefits to the local community. So when we collect revenue, it has to be collected and allocated in a transparent, fair, and equitable and accountable manner. Okay? So that's the first principle. The second principle would be to manage tourism at cultural heritage places through management plans informed by monitoring, carrying capacity, and other planning instruments. Of course, the protection of cultural heritage and resilience of host communities requires tourism planning and visitor management. And when we look at this, when we see the impacts on natural and cultural values of the place and social and cultural well-being of the host community, there are monitoring tools that we have to keep in mind. Of course, when we talk about cultural heritage plans, it has to include sustainability, tourism sustainability, and visitor management strategies. And of course, as I mentioned, a range of measures, including carrying capacity indicators, so that we can control, concentrate, or disperse visitors as appropriate. And of course, carrying capacity is not just one type of indicator. There are different kinds of carrying capacities or limits of acceptable change so that we can prevent negative impacts on tangible and intangible heritage. And at the minimum, carrying capacity must address, of course, the physical carrying capacity, the ability of a place to host visitors depending on its condition, fragility, and conservation status. But at the same time, it should be able to provide appropriate visitor services. And then there's the ecological carrying capacity. Here we look at the ecosystem and the host community and their ability to accommodate visitors while maintaining sustainability, functionality, and heritage values. And then this one would be something that affects intangible quite a lot, the social and cultural carrying capacity, the degree to which communities can host visitors while providing quality visitor experiences. And of course, there is the economic carrying capacity, the degree to which tourism supports economic diversity at a local, regional, and or national level. So the third principle is to enhance public awareness and the visitor experience through the sensitive interpretation and presentation of cultural heritage. So these are very important parts of tourism: interpretation and presentation, cultural heritage. And if we describe what responsible tourism and cultural heritage management should be, we are saying in the charter that it has to be able to provide accurate and respectful interpretation, presentation, dissemination, and communication. So when we talk about these aspects of the tourism offering, there has to be an opportunity. There should be an opportunity for the host community to present their cultural heritage firsthand. So this is a very important discussion that, when talk about interpretation, presentation, it's really the community, the host community, that decides how things should be presented. And when we talk about heritage presentation and promotion, it should be able to interpret and communicate the diversity and interconnections of tangible and intangible cultural values, of course, so that we can appreciate and understand the significance even more. So that's why it's very important, really, when we talk about interpretation, that these things are considered. Of course, authenticity, values, and significance of places are complex, and many times it's contested. Of course, multifaceted. There's not just one side to a story, and every effort must be taken to be inclusive when we consider interpretation and presentation of information. So we have to remember that interpretation method should not detract from the authenticity of the place. Now, the fourth principle is, of course, when we're talking about rights, and we recognize and reinforce the rights of communities, indigenous peoples, and traditional owners by including access and engagement in participatory governance of cultural and natural heritage commons used in tourism. And we talk about indigenous peoples here, and because of the exponential international tourism, we've seen blind spots or lack of sensitivity towards the vulnerability of many tourism-dependent communities. Of course, those who have experienced tourist visitation imposed on them without their free, prior, and consent. So speaking of indigenous peoples and traditional owners and host communities, so they have a right to express their views on heritage and to manage it according to their established practices and means. So, and as I stressed earlier, when we talk about responsible cultural tourism, it's not about consultation. It has to go beyond local stakeholder consultation. It should involve participatory governance and benefit share. I think we've been so used to just asking if they're okay with this or not. They have to be part of the management systems that are in place. The fifth principle is to raise awareness and reinforce cooperation for cultural heritage conservation among all stakeholders involved in tourism. So again, tourism is an economic activity, and we cannot detach it from the place where it occurs. And visitor activities and services have to be compatible, and things that happen in a community should be compatible and part of everyday life and social activity. So we don't introduce things that would detract from that. It has to contribute to a sustained local sense of place and pride. And when we talk about products and services, including events and festivals, they have to be consistent with the identity of places and their communities. Of course, there's a lot of tangible aspects here, like festivals or cultural practices that are sometimes shown or offered to tourists. So this is why we have to be very careful about how we showcase these products and services to as part of tourism. And of course, heritage managers, public tourism managers, private tourism operators, entrepreneurs, and people involved in cultural and creative industries we need to generate and maintain formal and informal networks of communication and collaboration. So it's a question of communication, talking to each other, and making sure that everyone is able to or is able to give their opinion or their decisions or their say on tourism. So principle number 6 would be to increase the resilience of communities and cultural heritage through capacity development, risk assessment, planning, and adaptive management. So considering uh, the disruptions affecting tourism, so of course we have currently ongoing systemic and pervasive global problems and emergent risks. We have to enhance the resilience, adaptive and transformative capacities of communities that host tourism so that they can deal with future challenges and disruptions related to climate change, the loss of biodiversity, and our calamities that affect cultural heritage. And we also saw the COVID-19 pandemic. There was a massive decline in tourism activities during this pandemic, and it exposed the vulnerability of many heritage places and communities that host cultural tourism. I think we all saw the negative effects of the COVID pandemic to these communities. And of course, it has clearly demonstrated that tourism must actively contribute to recovery, resilience, and heritage conservation, and that heritage places and host communities must consider adaptation options. And finally, the seventh principle is integrating climate action and sustainability measures in the management of cultural tourism and cultural heritage. And in the charter, we say that climate emergency is an existential threat to the planet and civilization as we know it. So, and that being said, it jeopardizes cultural and natural heritage. It threatens livelihoods and the well-being of people across the world. So, tourism dependent communities are definitely vulnerable. And because of that, all stakeholders have to take action to mitigate, reduce, and manage climate impacts. And these actions should enhance the ability of communities to generate, retain, and maintain sustainable benefits from cultural tourism. Of course, we talk about carbon, greenhouse gas reduction, waste management, reuse, recycling, energy and water conservation, green transport, and infrastructures that comply with the international and national targets. So that in a nutshell is the 2022 version of the charter. Again, I invite everyone to visit the website of ICTC to download a copy of the charter. So now I'll share some information about what we've done in the Philippines. Uh, the Philippines was the first country to actually include the charter in its laws. So I just wanted to share some quick information. We have the National Cultural Heritage Act of 2009, which was enacted in 2010. This was updated in 2023 with the cultural mapping law. And this is why we were able to include um, grade level 1 for UNESCO designated protection, including intangible cultural heritage. So um, any intangible cultural heritage element that is listed in the UNESCO lists gets grade 1 protection from the Philippine government. And as part of the implementing rules and regulations that have been approved, it's an omnibus policy codified and annotated implementation of more than 60 laws, including international conventions, charters, and standards and recommendations. One of the applicable standards that has been included in this new law is the ICOMOS International Charter for Cultural Heritage Tourism. So these are the documents, and of course, any future charter that will come out from various international organizations and the conventions that are from UN, UNESCO. They are also included in this implementing rules and regulations. So in the Philippines, can see that cultural tourism is a very potent tool for community development. And of course, we have community-led and community-based tourism programs in indigenous communities in the Philippines. And we've seen how they've provided opportunities for local people to determine the interpretation and content for guided tours. And it basically allows visitors to experience the area from the lens of the community. So we also have best practices that I would want to show you. You have the Ivatans of Batanes, the Ifugaos of the rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras, and the Manobos, the Abusan Manobos of the Abusan Marsh Wildlife Sanctuary. So Batanes is the northernmost island group of the Philippines. It's actually very close to Taiwan. And it was the jump-off point for the spread of Austronesians coming from southern Taiwan into the rest of the Austronesian area as we know it today. We have Austronesian archaeological sites and villages for World Heritage nomination, and the islands are actually included in the tentative list for potential World Heritage inscription. So one intangible aspect would be the knowledge of making these stone houses, which are found nowhere else in the Philippines. The Ivatan stone and thatch houses. And of course, when we do these trips to Batanes, they're able to offer insights into the Ivatan culture with visits to the historic villages that still have the stone houses, of course. And, you know, there are opportunities to see how these houses are maintained. Of course, the meals are very, very unique as well. In the rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras, which is a World Heritage Site, the locals have created tours that are based on the rice cycles. So it's very agriculturally, so there are several stages in the rice cycle. This is a very important part of their intangible cultural heritage. These rice cycle tours coincide with important dates in the traditional agricultural calendar, and the community itself is leading self-sustaining tours that provide tourism benefits directly to farmers through culture-based and participatory activities of locals and visitors. So farmers and community members have been trained as tour guides for the rice cycle tours, and visitors participate in the actual field work to get an actual feel of the terraces. And among the tours that have been organized some by the Save the Rice Terraces movement have been for land preparation, rice planting, harvest, and Thanksgiving. So we are able to see their intangible heritage through their own lens. Of course, these tours respect local traditions because heritage conservation is the primary purpose of the tourism activity. It follows the traditional agricultural calendar. Ritual performances are strictly done in context. So it's not a performance thing. It's really part and parcel of the context in which the rituals are done. Of course, at the same time, there's community consultation, and well, not just consultation because they're the ones organizing it as well. And farmers and locals directly benefit from tourism. So the same tour has been done in other parts of the rice terraces, rice planting, and rice harvest. So this youth group many, many years ago, organized these tours as an advocacy to help maintain and preserve the cultural heritage of their municipality. So during the tour, participants were able to plant or harvest rice in the rice terraces, watch cultural presentations showcasing local dances, and learn how to make the traditional house, and many, many more intangible parts of their cultural heritage. And finally, the third case study or example that I wanted to show was the community-based indigenous cultural tourism program at the Agusan Marsh. So it's the largest inland wetland in the Philippines and one of the few cultural landscapes with great potential to be a frontier of community-based wetlands and indigenous tourism. So this would allow people to appreciate and understand the synergy between wetlands and people. So in the past, there had been a lot of frustration in the village because they never benefited from visitors, despite the fact that there had been a lot of people entering their ancestral domain. So the project aimed to create a community-based tourism program in the village called Panlabuhan, and equip them with the proper infrastructure and facilities to serve visitors and train the community to ensure that the program becomes sustainable for them and the environment. And of course, this program was able to provide local perspectives to visitors as well as a sustainable and just economic recovery in the area, such as the Agusan Marsh with high biodiversity and cultural heritage resources. So one thing that the program was able to do was it was able to really strengthen the transfer of intangible knowledge. Unfortunately, this was lost in the marsh area, so we had to bring in cultural masters from the same community uh, to transfer. So there were culture bearers who came in and really transferred knowledge to the marsh community. So these are three examples that we did in the Philippines, and I hope that you've been able to learn more about the Cultural Heritage Charter and the examples that we have in the Philippines. So thank you very much. And this is how you can contact me. So Ananya?
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. And I'll request everyone, that was excellent overview and the examples were fascinating. I request everyone, you can write the questions in the chat or raise hand. But Ivan, I have a question for you meanwhile. You really emphasize that the community has to interpret and has to communicate. Now, are you using any digital tools for this? I'd like to know about that.
Well, I wish we could, but we still need to introduce our indigenous communities to digital tools. I don't think this is something that they will be able to use currently. So far, it's really person-to-person interpretation that we have in indigenous communities, which is why the tours are very experiential. Um, you have to realize also that, especially in the marsh, there's no power. So there's a little bit of solar batteries, but I don't think it will be enough to keep things running the whole day. In the rice terraces, there might be some, although there is Starlink already, but yeah, internet connections can also be problematic. So yeah, I mean, as much as we'd like to use digital tools, I think the communities have we need to improve first the infrastructure in the communities, the digital infrastructure that they have and their access to this. So of course, in some areas in the Philippines, especially the lowlands and the non-indigenous communities, might have more opportunities to use digital tools, but for us for the indigenous communities, it might be a challenge at the moment.